The Kremlin seems to have given itself a headache in the form of Yevgeny Prigozhin. The head of the Wagner mercenary force is publicly arguing with Russia's top military brass. Since being founded to aid separatists in the eastern Ukrainian Donbas region in 2014, Wagner has had shady dealings in Syria, Libya, the Central African Republic and more. At one time, the connection between the group and the Kremlin was rumoured internationally but denied by Moscow. That smokescreen, however, lifted when Russia started its invasion of Ukraine. Wagner's troops have played a key role in Russia's offence, recruiting thousands of prisoners to fill their ranks. Things escalated on Sunday when his company would refuse to sign any contracts with Russia's defence ministry, contracts widely seen as an attempt to bring the group into line.
Wagner will not sign any contracts with Defence Minister Shoigu. Wagner has the deepest experience and is a highly effective structure, but most military units don't have such efficiency.
ЧВК «Вагнер» не будет подписывать никаких контрактов с Шойгу. ЧВК «Вагнер» органично встроена в общую систему. ЧВК «Вагнер» согласует свои действия с генералами справа, слева, с командирами подразделений, имеет глубочайший опыт и является высокоэффективной структурой. К сожалению, такой эффективности большинство воинских частей не обладает. И именно из-за того, что Шойгу не может нормально управлять воинскими формированиями.
Wagner asserts his group will not sign any contract with the country's defense ministry.
The Defence Ministry said all volunteer formations would have to sign contracts with the ministry by the end of the month in an attempt to increase efficiency. But that was rubbished by Prigozhin.
When we first became involved in this war, nobody said we would be obliged to sign deals with the Russian Defense Ministry. That is why none of them will sign the contracts.
In a televised meeting on Tuesday, Putin called on volunteer fighters in Ukraine to sign contracts with the country's military, widely seen as a means to assert control of Wagner. This after Russia's parliament green-lighted legislation that will allow the defense ministry to sign contracts with suspected or convicted criminals to fight in Ukraine. Putin added that the contracts were necessary for fighters to receive social support, including compensation in case of injury and condolence payments to families of killed in action.
The Department of Defense is now offering a contract to anyone who wishes to continue serving in the special military operation area. This is the only way to guarantee social rights. This must be done, and as soon as possible.
The move is the latest attempt by Moscow to control private armies. The Defense Ministry has already signed a contract with the Akhmat paramilitary unit of Ramzan Kadyrov, the Moscow-backed ruler of the Chechnya region. The group is currently waging the Kremlin's offensive in the Donetsk region in Ukraine.
Сегодня произошло подписание контракта русской специальной Чеченской республики, подразделение, которое изначально формировалось и готовилось непосредственно под руководством главы Чеченской республики Рамзана Ахматовича Кадырова. Данное подразделение за эти год и 3 месяца на передовую непосредственно через себя подготовленными направило тысячи и десятки тысяч добровольцев. Эти добровольцы приходили на фронт и непосредственно сражались плечом к плечу с другими подразделениями, которые доблестно защищают наше Отечество, воюя против сатанизма и терроризма.
Chechen fighters on armoured vehicles. It's unclear where they came from, but they vowed to crush the mutiny by the Wagner mercenaries. The Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov said his men would do everything to preserve the unity of Russia.
Yes, Rob, Ramzan Kadyrov, the president of the Regional Republic of Chechnya, announced that he's siding by President Putin, and that's expected. His army, his fighters left Donetsk. There's a very big convoy that headed towards Rostov, and the main mandate is taking back control.
Our correspondent Yulia Shapovalova was saying that Yevgeny Prigozhin, Prigozhin has been saying that Wagner has the support of the Russian people. How accurate is that?
You know, he is indeed popular, but I'm not sure that that makes it possible for him to convince the whole population to join him.
Obviously, Prigozhin had been personally connected to Putin for many years, and Putin values his friends. So Putin allowed him to criticize the Ministry of Defense and many other things. But in the last few days, Prigozhin just started speaking like Ukrainian propaganda. I mean, listen to his latest interview. I talked to a lot of people in Moscow. They are all against Prigozhin. They all say that we need unity now in the times of war. And no one supports him. History is on Putin's side in this situation. And the majority of the population, the public opinion, is on the side of Putin.
Well, let's take a closer look at the Wagner Group. The private military contractor was started by a Russian businessman, Yevgeny Prigozhin, in 2014. Back then, it was a very secretive organization. Wagner is partially funded through its ties to the Kremlin, but it also accepts payment in gold, precious gems, and natural resources like oil and gas. Before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Wagner stationed about 2,000 fighters in Libya. They've been there since 2019, supporting forces loyal to warlord Khalifa Haftar. The group has fought alongside pro-Syrian government forces since 2015. It also guards oil fields for the Assad government. Now, for 5 years, about 1,000 Wagner mercenaries have provided security against rebel attacks for the government in Central African Republic. It's believed Wagner joined Mali's decade-long fight against armed groups last year after France withdrew its troops.
I also don't see how Prigozhin can motivate his fighters to go against Moscow. Because obviously, where does he get his money from to pay the soldiers? From the Russian state budget, obviously. So going against Moscow is basically destroying the sources for his private military company, which was modeled after the American companies such as Blackwater and Academy, which did most of the bloody work during the Iraqi war.
Well, without a doubt, this has been the most significant and dramatic 24 hours in Russia's modern political history over the last 3 decades. And it ended as quickly and unexpectedly as it began. Yevgeny Prigozhin and his Wagner PMC seizing the southern Russian city of Rostov before taking just 24 hours to march to within striking distance of Moscow. The negotiations that brought this to an end took place behind closed doors and involved mediation from Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. The charges against Yevgeny Prigozhin of armed mutiny will be dropped. He will be going to Belarus into effective exile. The guarantor of that, according to the Kremlin, Dmitry Peskov, will be the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, and his word. As for the Wagner fighters, those who did not participate in this mutiny, they'll get the chance, according to the Kremlin, to sign contracts with the Russian Ministry of Defense.